Very good afternoon. Welcome back to Les Sables d'Olonne, their daily live show with an international flavour. It is day 50 on the racecourse. Hard to believe we're there. We're over halfway through our shows. We're doing live shows through until the 2nd of February. And of course, 2 days of 2024 are left. The leaders just now are 250 miles or so southeast of Rio. It's quite a dynamic weather system for them just now. It's very light conditions, very hard to predict. We spoke with Johan Richomme. He said it's very much a case of getting your head out the boat and pointing it towards the finish and then waiting to see what happens. So interesting to watch how that develops for the two leaders. It's looking good for Les Sables d'Olonne's finest. Sebastian Simon has halved his distance to the leaders. He's well insulated to Thomas Riong behind now, so it's looking good for Seb Simon. So too for Thomas Riong. But the main group, there's less than 20 miles separating the fifth place Paul Mea back to Sam Goodchild, and Justine Metro is very much on the attack. Meantime, tough times for Isabelle Josch. She's lost her starboard foil, and that really put the tin lid on a weekend from hell for her, but she's still going and determined. But the goals of Yannick Bestaven, the winner of the last edition of the race, have changed. He announced his official abandon this morning. He's heading into Ushuaia, where he'll expect to meet his team, try to effect some repairs and get the boat back in saleable condition. He's going to try and sail back to Les Sables d'Olonne solo, and that's important for him. Now then, my guests today are Will Harris, as ever, from Team Milizia. It's a Monday, and Will is joining us. And Antoine Lauriot Prévost from VPLP. He's the project manager for the IMOCAs at that VPLP. So starting off with Will. Will, how are you?
Yeah, hi Andy, hi everyone. Good to be back, and it's looking very exciting out in the South Atlantic at the moment. So looking forward to hearing from Boris
in a few seconds. And Antoine, presumably you watch this race super closely all the time, addicted to the tracker, I'd imagine.
Hello, Andy. Yes, of course, as a lot of people, we are watching very closely the race, and very exciting.
I'm going to start with you, Antoine. What have you seen in the race so far that might influence future designs? Is there anything specific?
Yeah, of course. Before the race, we saw very various designs. The boats were very different from each other, the last generation boats, I mean. And we can see in the tracker now that there is no one dominating design. That means there are various options to achieve the same goal. And we have seen some boats that were supposed to be very fast in certain conditions, managing to sail very well in the conditions that were not supposed to go fast. So it's always very interesting to follow the race, follow the different performance of the boats compared to what they were supposed to go, and it's going to influence the next designs for sure.
And obviously you model the race in advance or long before you start making designs. How closely has the race followed the model, as it were?
So again, sorry?
How closely has this race followed your normal model for the Vendée Globe?
I don't get the question, sorry.
I'm just saying you obviously model the race in advance when you design the boats. Is this a typical race or atypical?
Yeah, it's a typical race. I mean, they had typical conditions, rough conditions in the Southern Oceans with strong seas, strong winds. In our case, we designed the last boat for Boris, which was really particularly designed for this kind of conditions, and we saw him sailing very fast, and thanks to the performance of his boat in the Southern Ocean, I think he did a great comeback, and it's quite close to the models that we have. The timings of the race is what could be expected if the weather and the boats were in good shapes. So far, all good.
Good. We'll come back to you in a few seconds. Antoine, Will, how important is this phase of the race at the moment, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting moment, probably mentally for the sailors as well. You know, they've got through the Southern Ocean, the tough Southern Ocean, which is kind of what they think of it, and and now they're thinking, oh, this is the last home stretch. But in reality, they're stuck there with light winds. They're sailing upwind as well. It can actually be a lot more uncomfortable in the upwind and probably quite frustrating. So although it can feel like they're through the tough conditions, actually, it can really be a really hard moment in the race. And as we've seen, the miles have been getting closer together. We've seen that sort of 5th to 10th place is now very close. So I think probably mentally they're all stressing a little bit at the moment, and probably realizing it's still quite a long way to go. And as we saw in the last Vendée Globe, this moment from Cape Horn to the equator actually brought all the top 5 boats to within 50 miles or so. So really crucial moment to see how it goes in this edition.
And I think this situation for the 2 leaders in particular seems like the weather models really struggle.
Yeah, it's it's really interesting when you have a look at the tracker and you can sort of overlay the wind barbs, and you see that they end up pointing almost into the wind sometimes, and that's because the models are slightly incorrect, and the sailors are just kind of trying to sail the most direct course possible, while also considering the different weather situations. I think what's interesting at this point as well is there's typically not one straight route. There's no one way to get to the equator now. There's 2 or 3 different options will normally open up on the routing, and that's based on which side of the high pressures that they decide to sail around, whether they try and go to the east or to the west of them. And depending on your timing, it can totally change what the routing's telling you to do. So the sailors are going to have to be really on it and really doing what they think's best, and not necessarily looking at their closest competitor, because as you saw, Nico and Jeremy there, they've kind of been pipped by 3 or 4 boats coming up on the inside of the Falkland Islands for them.
We'll watch that and see how that develops. We do have Boris Herrmann on board Militia Sea Explorer. Boris, how are you?
Hi, Andy, and here's the voice of Will. Hello, I'm good, thank you.
How have the last 24 hours been? It's a big sea change in terms of weather since the Southern Ocean. You seem to be adapting okay.
Yes, it's beautiful conditions now. We have right now 15 knots, sunshine. The sea is astonishingly green. That is because of a phytoplankton bloom, I believe. I have read an article about that this morning. Someone sent to me. So that's really an astonishing phenomenon. But in general, it's beautiful after the weeks of grayness and cold in the south to feel every 12 hours we gain 1 degree Celsius, and it has been an exciting night to sail so close to the Falklands and be followed closely by some good child. I saw him on the AIS only 3 miles away one moment, and yeah, of course you're afraid to fall asleep and crash into the islands at one, but that kept us a little bit up tonight to make sure we safely pass the islands.
But you're in this very compact group. How do you see that evolving? Do you pretty much sail the pack, as it were, or do you see anything interesting happening?
We seem to follow the same pattern, so we are Holcim Charal a little bit to the south, sometimes slightly less wind yesterday or tonight. We were kind of they're a bit closer to the high. We're all sailing into this high, then tacking, going northwest. That's how I see it. And then there's a low coming in, so we negotiate that. Have some stronger winds tomorrow. And then make our way north with more transitions, tacks, and upwind sailing to come. But in general, the forecast has become more mild, kind of more manageable over the next couple of days. 2 days ago, it looked pretty rough, and the wind strengths have come down, and from Thursday onwards, we should have a bit of downwind sailing. I mean, the models change a lot, but it just looks better now in general, so that's good.
That's good, Boris. But obviously we have Antoine with us from VPLP. We're talking boat design. What would you see as your next evolution, learning what you have off this race?
Oh, wow, that's super interesting. I mean, we had it's for me, very astonishing Vendée Globe. We had a boat, Massif, which is a boat that I think is a bit the traditional school, the Verdier boat that is really kind of optimized for power and kind of really fast on flatter water we expected, but he managed to go pretty well through the Southern Ocean. So, but at the same time, the Koch boat also did a great job in the south. So it's really hard to pull an instant conclusion. I would have thought that the Massif boat would struggle a little bit more with the wavy conditions in the south, but I think we just had an astonishing south for them. With more reaching. I mean, it was really a different Vendée Globe than 4 years ago, and this shows again we need versatile, polyvalent boats that can deal that can be fast in all conditions, and it remains a really passionate subject to where you go with the evolution of IMOCA hull shape and boat design. It's amazing if you see the two leaders. They are totally different boats, different philosophies, very different in width and in boat shape, and they are just glued next to each other. And then that's kind of a beauty of this sport, I guess, too, to have this variety and yeah, it's really interesting times for the architects.
Would you go as extreme with your next boat?
Well, I think we would certainly try something different just for the sake of trying different things. I'm very happy with this boat. I think it's a beautiful boat. It has potential also that we can still develop on it. And I mean, the boat has a bright future and lots of plans with this boat. So we also certainly there is we need to analyze and see where we can where design can go and what can be. I'm not sure we went too extreme. I'm happy with the choices we made on this boat. I think it's a good boat. On the foils we could gain more performance, and on a few other areas. The sails are also quite important. I had problems with some, one sail was broken in the Southern Ocean. So, and we saw, I think on this Vendée Globe, it was more the conditions, the position in the bigger picture that determined your advancement than what kind of boat you had. I guess, yeah, the boats are all pretty close together, in fact, really.
Indeed. Antoine, a quick connection with Boris. Obviously, you communicate from time to time, but say hello to Boris.
Hi, Boris. I hope you're all good, and you seem to be quite in a good shape, and I hope your boat is in good shape as well for the last track of the Vendée Globe. Not the easiest one, but I was wondering how you were feeling because your boat was very designed for the Southern Ocean, and you showed that it was quite successful. And how are you feeling now starting the Atlantic Ocean compared to the other boat that you're sailing with?
Yeah, hi Antoine. Just as a background, so Antoine is with the architect group VPLP that we have designed this boat together. So Antoine and I, we know each other since a long time. So it's great to meet you here, Antoine, and I feel good looking forward at the Atlantic. I think the conditions we have now, they are a little bit like in the Transat Retour à la Base from New York to Les Sables that we did in the summer, with lots of changes and yeah, transitions, and I did pretty well on that Transat. I think we could hopefully stay in this pack, knowing that the other boats are particularly strong on the upwind, Holcim especially. I think if it's stronger wind, then Charal is probably the fastest boat upwind. So, but if we don't get too far from them, there can be opportunities, as Will said earlier, with these very changeable conditions. the boat is in good shape. I'm in good shape, and I'm very motivated to bring her home as quickly as possible.
Great. Boris, a quick word with Will, just briefly. Will, say hello to Boris.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Boris. Good to see you in such good spirits. And I just wanted to wish you a happy new year in advance. And I hope you enjoyed your Christmas. And I just had a little question. Does it feel like you've been at 50 days at sea already? 50 days since we said goodbye to each other.
Yes, it's amazing. Yeah, hi Will. Great to hear you here. And I was just thinking about it last night. I felt a bit like a coastal match race with Sam Goodchild. I mean, each time you have a competitor closing in, coming close like that, and that I could even see him on the AAS. Then you try everything, even. You're always on it, but then you're even like feeling like this afternoon race in the Brittany coast almost. And I said, well, this could have been, we just left 2 days ago and we're just sailing like it's a very short race at this time. It was very gusty and unstable behind the Falklands, and I got up and would adjust the sails and the pilot, and I think Sam did the same. He told me this morning he didn't sleep much, so that's really fun to see. It's actual proper racing even on day 51.
Boris, we're all watching with bated breath. It's a fantastic race to watch all the way through. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good day, and hope the South Atlantic's kind to you.
Thank you all. All the best to France and England and wherever you are.
Indeed, there we go. Boris Herrmann. Well, we caught up with Johan Richomme earlier on today. He was in the light winds, and he was explaining just exactly what the possible strategy is, if there's such a thing.
Monday's going well. We've come to this cold front that is across the southern Atlantic, and we were meant to go across it. However, we just bumped into it, stopped, and now we're in a completely different scenario where I don't think we're going to go across it. We're behind it, sailing with westerly wind, downwind again, towards the north. And we might do that for another day. It wasn't the plan at all. And it's very tough. The wind predictions are changing with every weather file we're getting. So it's very hard to have a goal. So basically, we're going where the wind wants to take us, and we're trying to make the best of it towards the route, But it's it's a tricky one.
How much time are you spending looking at the meteo then?
It's more looking at where the boat is going than looking at the weather, because I'm looking at the weather, all the time. Looking at the satellite images and all that, and getting the grid files, but it's not really helping me. It's very hard to have a strategy with zero speed. You'd like to be somewhere else, but you can't be there. So you have to work with what you have. So right now I have some wind. I'm moving. I'm happy.
And how does the Atlantic look generally ahead?
It looks pretty awful for the next 3 days. To be fair, the weather pattern isn't fully established. It's a fight between this cold front generating some low pressures going towards the Southern Ocean, and the St. Helena High trying to increase its size basically, and I have no idea how long this is going to take. It could take a few days to come up through the system. It was meant to be 2-3 days. It might be 3-4 days. I don't know.
And presumably you're watching Seb quite closely as well.
Yeah, I looked at him this morning. Yeah, he's in an interesting position. I think he's got quite a bit of a light area to go through. To be fair, it's just it's so complicated. It's hard to know. He could do well on the shore side, and that'd be nice for him, I guess.
Could be. In the meantime, you're getting closer to the finish. You've only really got a big transat to go.
Yeah, we have a reversed old generation Jacques Vabre to do.
Exactly. But that must feel good.
Yeah, basically that's it. Yeah, it does feel good. It does. It does knowing that we're going to be home in about been more than 15 days now, maybe. And yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm concentrated on this part of the weather, going through this front for the next 3 days, and then we'll see about going up the trade winds and stuff. It's just it looks very far. Right now it looks quite far.
So fascinating battle between the two leaders. Well, we were saying this is very much a mental game as well. You know these two guys. You raced in the 2016 La Solitaire when Johan just pipped Charlie in the last stages of the last race. How much do you think that preys on Charlie's mind?
Yeah, I mean the two of them really to be fighting so closely at this stage in the race, it must be hard not to think about the pressure between them. To think, at that finish line, there's going to be one of them who crosses the line ahead of the other, and they're very familiar to being in this situation, which I think makes it even more interesting. Back in the 2016 Solitaire, when I was racing as a rookie, they finished within 5 minutes of each other, bringing it down to the line in the last leg of racing after a month of racing. So, they've been in this situation a lot before. I think they've probably figured out how to deal with it. And, back then it was Johan who managed to get ahead of Charlie. So, we're going to have to see how it plays out. So it's so close at the moment. And it doesn't particularly favor either one of them as well in terms of their boats at the moment. It's both very light winds. So, they're just going to have to find the best way to the finish and try and keep a cool head and remember that it's still quite a long way to go.
Thanks, Will. So, Antoine, how important, I know this sounds like a basic question, but how important is top speed now with the boats? It seems like we can't really go much faster, or is there a need to go faster?
No, I think that was one of the biggest lessons that we learned from the previous Vendée Globe, is that top speed is not what we're seeking for. Now we see all the new generations boats. They can go really fast, but they are not seeking for that. We are not seeking for that. We are more seeking for a high average speed and being able to sail fast, but for a very long time without being too hard to handle. So top speed is important for the shows and for the self-confidence in your boat and everything. But for a race like the Vendée Globe, the thing that we are looking for is having a simple boat. I mean, simple to handle boat, tolerant boat that can go fast for a long time without being too hard to handle.
So I'm asking, where's the next evolution in that sense then, in terms of making the boats easier to handle and easier to live, shall we say?
Well, I think one easy to live. I don't think we're going to see much more improvements because the performance is not going in with the ease of living on board. However, being fast and not with an average speed that is quite flat makes it a bit easy to live. Evolution, I think, in terms of hull design, we still have a lot to study. We can see in the fleet that all the boats are very different. We are not converging at all in terms of hull design. Boats have different beam, very different sections, very different shapes. So still a lot to learn and study on hull design. And those boats, which is very hard to do on those boats, is to sail stable, because now they can fly, but they have only one foil and one keel to fly on, and we don't have any support at the back to make a stable flight. So the key point of those boats is stability in longitudinal, so pitch pole, and transverse as well. So now next boat we will be looking for stable sailing as much as possible.
Interesting. We'll come back to you in a few seconds, but let's go to the weather with a nice image, another sunset from Violette d'Orange. So our meteo this Monday, my special guest is Jacques Caraës, 4 times round the world sailor, race director in the last edition and assistant race director just now. So Jacques, this situation just now with the leaders is super interesting. We're in this semi-stationary cold front and it's a very dynamic situation. Do you think it could be key to the race?
Yeah, sure. It can be a very strategic moment between both because they're in light weather, but they have to have the best position with what's happened in a few days, and so maybe they will be very tactic together, or they will choose a different option. So they have absolutely to put this position, like we say, aile de mouette, to find the other solution to have the trade winds. So this moment is very important for the 2 leaders.
So they're trying to get round the top of the high pressure system. They're getting into the downwind conditions over here. So this is the point that in theory they should jibe. So this is what they call the Île de Mouette in French, which is the seagull's wing on the edge of the high pressure system. So we're going to watch that. But let's see how this plays out, Jacques. An opportunity for Sébastien Simon to come back, do you think?
Yes, could be a little bit. He's very lucky because he's on the good tack for the foil. So he has not big problem at all. And so for the moment, he will come back a little bit close to the leader. Not so close, but better. And sure, for the people behind him, he make a big distance.
But at the moment, the situation for the 2 leaders is difficult. They're in this light wind zone, which is semi-stationary. This is where Yannick Bestaven got stuck in the last edition.
Yes, exactly. And it's very difficult room because we remember 4 years ago for Yannick, he was very close at the east, but he has a lot of difficulties to come back to find the trade wind. So strategy is a very big moment in this race.
At this point, yeah, indeed.
At this point.
Looking now, this is the situation for the group behind. Thomas Riong is well clear. We're seeing Sam Goodchild that's made a nice little move. He went round through the Le Maire Straits and got himself back in contact with this. But we're watching Juju with Justine Metro here.
Yes, and it's very interesting to see Justine. She doesn't want to follow. She wants to be aggressive. So she take another tack the other side of Malouines. So it's very interesting. And she thinks she has a very competitor woman. So she wants to come back on the few leaders in front of her.
So let's see how this plays out. She's got a good situation, just getting into the breeze, then a little bit of convergence. Also good for Sam Goodchild by the looks of things.
Yes, Goodchild too. Sam is the only guy crossing Détroit de Le Maire. So it's really important. He's very happy of this option and he's no contact with the other.
So we're just watching that with the tracker, with the predicted route. We're seeing again to Chiral potentially and also maybe Justine Metro. So that's the situation for them. And then finally looking more big picture at the fleet, Jacques.
Yes.
This front
yes,
here, which is
interesting too, because we can say that Benjamin Dutreux with Guyot is very close to Clarisse Kremer now with Occitane, and Sam Davis is coming too, because in front of them there will be a lake system, so people in front with more pressure will come back to cap on together to be another rendezvous.
So certainly looking quite good for Sam. Otherwise, Jean Le Cam here.
Jean Le Cam is good situation, very southwest wind, very cold, but he makes distance with the other because a few technical problems behind, so on the good way to follow.
And the boats behind.
And that is with the anticyclone, so they are very close to the ZEA, you know?
Yeah.
The ZEA, so they have to jibe in front and the other make a little elastic and after they will go. So they are obliged to be very close to the ZEA.
Fantastic, Jacques. Fantastic job. So that's our weather today, this Monday. And thanks to Jacques. I'm sure he'll be back with us over the course of the race. Now that he's proven he's so good. Indeed, the expert eye of Jacques Caraës and loving to use his little white pencil at the end. That was the key moment from Will Harris. Just tell us what you see happening in the South Atlantic then from here on in.
Yeah, no, really interesting analysis from Jacques Caraës there. He explains it perfectly. They're trying to get on the top of that South Atlantic high pressure, but it's looking really challenging for the two leaders there. The trade winds really aren't established nicely along the Brazilian coast, and there's not like a clear upwind route. They've got each of the routings are kind of taking them totally separate ways. So they either have to choose to do what their strategy, what they think's best, or to try and stick next to that boat that's just next to them. But you imagine being in that leading position if you've got the other boat next to you and he suddenly tacks off, you've got to suddenly look at your whole strategy again and decide whether to follow him or not. So I'm sure that's happening all the time for them. And then that second group, there's all sorts of different options at the moment. Whether to go a bit further west and try and stick up the Brazilian coastline, or to try and push out to the east early on and try and have a good angle coming towards the equator. But we could see the boats all packed together at the equator, or with a big 1,000-mile separation, all to play for.
Indeed. Thanks, Will, for joining us. Now, Antoine, how do you see business in general? We had a lot of new IMOCAs for this race. Can we see as many for the next edition?
Yeah, I think we're going to see again many new boats. I think the last edition of the Ocean Race with just 5 or 6 boats, if I remember well, showed that the concept was perfectly working, and I think we're going to see much more boats in the next edition, and much more new boats designed for the Ocean Race in particular. So I think we're going to see many new boats, maybe a bit less different designs due to the rule that the IMOCA is putting in now for the next generation, but many new boats for sure.
And lots of new VPLP boats, we hope. Yeah,
we hope so too.
So there we go. Thank you so much for joining us, Antoine. Now, unfortunately, the complexion of the race has changed entirely for Yannick Bestaven, who's heading into Ushuaia, and he's trying to finish the course solo, but he'll go in and he'll try and effect his repairs with his technical team who are on the way. And this is Yannick going into Ushuaia.
Voilà, on rentre dans le canal de Beagle en direction d'Ushuaia. Ah bah dis donc. Un Vendée Globe qui se transforme d'une course en une sacrée aventure avec la découverte de la Patagonie. Bon, il fait pas très beau, il fait pas très chaud, mais l'endroit a l'air assez magique. Il y a de la neige un peu sur les montagnes là-bas au fond. En route vers Ushuaia.
So there we go. Yannick Bestaven, unfortunately, his new adventure starts when he can repair his boat, but he's determined to sail the boat back. Now, my guest tomorrow, as it happens, is Eric Blondo, who is Yannick Bestaven's mental coach. We spoke with him the last edition. He's a fascinating guy, and obviously he's not allowed to speak to Yannick during the course, but he's instrumental in helping him deal with the situation just now. So Eric's in New Zealand. We spoke with him today. We'll play that out tomorrow. Very interesting interview. The other person we have tomorrow is Charlene Picon, who of course is France's most medalled female sailor. 2 Olympic medals in the windsurfer class, and then a gold and a silver in the windsurfing class, and now most recently a bronze. And she's cruising in the Caribbean, and we'll have her tomorrow. So do join us again tomorrow with the Vendée Globe live show. We'll see you then.